Is the 24th of Adar. It is Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Erev Shabbos Mevarchim Nisan, and we are up to Kuf Yud Tes Amud Beis. We are starting from Kuf Yud Tes Amud Aleph at the very bottom of the page, last 4 words of the page, where we are going to be discussing the minhag that we have, which is apparently a very old minhag, of doubling up some of the psukim of Hallel. Says the Gemara as follows: Tanan Hasam, it was taught over there, and we have a brisa. Makom shenagu, turning over the page, Makom shenagu lichfol yichbol. In places that they have the minhag to double up some of the psukim of the Hallel, yichbol, you should double up the psukim. Livshot, yivshot. If the custom is to say it straight, then you should say it straight without doubling up. Levarich acharav. If the minhag is to make a bracha afterwards, yivarich, you should make the bracha afterwards. Hakol k'minhag medina, everything is a legitimate minhag in accordance with whatever the normative custom is where you are. And now the Gemara is going to get into some of these details. Amar Abaye says, Lo yishanu ela la'acharav. They only spoke about this with regards to the bracha afterwards. Aval lefanav, but the bracha that you make before the halal, mitzvah levarich, that you have to make a bracha. You have a mitzvah to be mevarich on the halal there. A difference in minhag. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel says, Rabbi Yehuda and Amar Shmuel, Kol mitzvahs mevarich alem over le'asiyasan, which we mentioned in the first parak, way back on Davav, that all mitzvahs you have to make a bracha over la'asiyasan, which we normatively translate as before doing them. The Gemara, however, is going to question now, what exactly does over mean? Over means to pass. So what does that mean, over la'asiyasan, passing to doing them? What does that mean? My mashma dahai over lishna da'akdumehu. How do you know that the word over means to proceed? Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, the Chassid, the pasuk says, "Vayaratz achi ma'at derech hakikar vayavar es hakushi." The pasuk in Shmuel Beis that Achimatz ran through the plains, vayavar es hakushi, and he passed, meaning he was behind and then he was in front of. So he was vayavar, and he passed before the kushi. So the word over means before. Amar Abaye says, maybe we have another pasuk that might support the same idea. Mehacha v'hu avar lifnehem. The pasuk in Bereshis by Yaakov Avinu. V'hu avar lifnehem. Yaakov Avinu passes before his family when meeting with Esav. So the word avar in that context, v'hu avar lifnehem, means that he passed lifnehem before them. Hence the idea of over meaning preceding. There are those that say from here, Vayavar Malkam Lifnehem, V'Hashem Barasham, the pasuk in Micha that we quoted on the Monday night shir about Yemas Mashiach, Vayavar Malkam Lifnehem, that the king will pass before them. The idea of over meaning before. V'Hashem Barasham, and Hashem is on the head. Tanya, we have a brisa that says as follows: Rebbe Kofel Badvarim. Rebbe repeated certain parts of Hallel. Rebbe Elazar ben Prata Mosif Badvarim. Rebbe Elazar ben Prata would add things. So, what is the difference between Kofel Badvarim and adding Dvarim? So, says the Gemara, Ma Mosif. Well, what did he add? Amar Abaye. Abaye says, Mosif lichval me'odcha lamata. He would add more things to double up. Meaning, Rebbe would begin his doubling up from Baruch Haba B'Shem Hashem, Baruch Mechem V'Yis Hashem, and Rebbe Elazar ben Prata would start already from Odcha Hashem, which is where we start from. Why would we want to double these up? So the Rashbam here points out that the reason to do so is because of the Gemara that we learned yesterday, that these psukim were said by David and Yishai and Shmuel and David's brothers, and out of kavod for the mishpacha of Malchus, and from the process of David Melech becoming the Melech, so to amplify that, to glorify that, to make a big deal out of it, that's why we double up those psukim. Some of the other Rishonim point out that many of the psukim of Hallel are already doubled in terms of their themes. Like Hodel Hashem Ki Tov Ki L'Olam Chasto, so we repeat those ideas many, many times over. But from Odcha Hashem Ki Anisani, those psukim are, each one has their own theme. They're not doubled up anywhere else. And therefore, to be able to make them equivalent to many of the other themes of Hallel, we double them up. Darsh Rav Avira says Rav Avira Zimnan Amar Mishmei, and here we have the change in the girsa here, that it was not the Gemara that we have. Our text has Mishmei the Rav, and then in parentheses the Rav Ashi. Rav and Rav Ashi lived like 5 generations apart, and Rav Avira didn't live in that time period. He lived in between, which is why the Achronim they fix up this girsa to say that sometimes he heard in the name of Rav Ami and sometimes in the word of Rav Asi, not Rav Ashi, but Rav Asi. Rav Ami and Rav Asi, those were Rabbeim of Rav Avira as quoted in other places. So Darsh Rav Avira would darshan the following: Zimnin Amale Mishmei Derav Ami, v'Zimnin Amale Mishmei Derav Asi. Sometimes he said it over in the name of Rav Ami and sometimes in the name of Rav Asi. Maidach says, what does the pasuk mean? This is a famous Gemara, famous Medrash, shows up in a number of places. But what does the pasuk mean when it says "Vayigdal hayel v'yigamal" by the weaning of Yitzchak? So we learn this on Rosh Hashanah from Parashat Vayera. Vayigdal hayel v'yigamal, that the child grew up and was weaned. Talking about Yitzchak, Asir HaKadosh Baruch Hu la'aseh suda l'tzadikim. In the future, Hashem is going to make a suda for the tzaddikim. B'yom sheyigmal chazadoi lezar shel Yitzchak. On the day that he's going to be goimel, that's by yigmal, it's weaning, but it also comes from the word to be goimel, from the day that on the day that he's goimel chesed to the descendants of Yitzchak. La'achar she'oichlem v'shoistim, after they have finished eating and drinking, noisnin lo Avram Avinu koshel bracha levarich. They give Avram Avinu the koshel bracha to make the bracha. Va'omer lahem. And he says to them, "Any mevarach, I should not make this bracha. I shouldn't lead the benching. She yotzim mimeni Yishmael, because Yishmael came out from me. There's an issue with me. I shouldn't." Omer lo Yitzchak. So they say to Yitzchak, "Tolu varich." So Avram says to Yitzchak, "Tolu varich. You should take it. You should make the bracha." Omer lahem. So Yitzchak says, "Any mevarach. I'm not going to make the bracha. She yotzim mimeni Esav, because Esav came out from me." Omer lo Yaakov. Say to Yaakov, Talu varich, and that's what they say. Omer lahem, Yaakov says, "Eini mevarich, I am not able to be mevarich she nasani shtei achayis bechayihem, because I married 2 sisters in their lifetimes. I see the Torah la'osur alai, because and in the future the Torah is going to say that what I did was awesome. And then it wasn't awesome, but in the future the Torah is going to say it's awesome. Omer Moshe is going to say to Moshe, Talu varich, go make the bracha. Omer lahem, he says, Eini mevarich, I'm not going to be able to make the bracha. Shaloi zachisi lekana l'Eretz Yisrael. I couldn't go into Eretz Yisrael, not in my lifetime and not in my death. I wasn't even buried there, so I'm not able to. So they say to Yeshua, "Tell the Baruch, go make the bracha." He says to them, "I'm not able to, because I never had a son." Dirshu, as the pasuk says, Yeshua ben Nun benai Yeshua benai. The pasuk in Divrei Yomim, that is quoting the lineage of the Bnei Ephraim. So it says Nun B'nai, Yeshua B'nai, and then period. Yeshua didn't have any sons. Omer Lai LeDavid, so he says to David, Tell the Baruch, go and bench. Omer Lahen, he says to them, Ani Mevarich, I will bench. Veli Nai Levarich, and it is fitting for me to bench. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Kos Yeshua says, I lift up the cup of Yeshua's salvation, Uveshem Hashem Akra, and I will call out in the name of Hashem. And it is that pasuk that the Gemara in Shlosh Zachlu, the 7th paragraph of Maseches Brachos, learns out the chiyuv of zimun. So David Melech says to the pasuk, "Kos Yeshua Sasal v'Shem Hashem Ekra." That's one of the sources for a zimun that we should be benching. And David Melech says that it is appropriate, and this was turned into the Yiddish song "Was willen wir machen as Mashiach wird kommen." So the idea of the Sudas Tzadikim Lasset Avos. So this is one of our makoros that we have in Shasvar. Okay, says the Mishnah, like 10 lines from the bottom, or 1 line down from the wide lines. This is a famous Mishnah. This line of the Mishnah shows up in the answer that we give to the Ben HaChacham. Ein maftir nachar Pesach hafi komen. What exactly do these words mean? So we'll see in a moment. But ein maftirin lahaftir, from the word maftir or haftarah, the thing that is afterwards. HaPesach. So what exactly is HaPesach? So it means the current Pesach. And afikomen, that's a strange word. So let's see. My afikomen, what exactly does afikomen mean? Amar Rav says, Rav shelo ya'akr mechabura l'chabura. It means you're not allowed to go from one group to another. That's what it means. It means ein maftirin achar Pesach afikomen. So afikoman, meaning to get up and go. It's not an item. it's that we don't leave. Once we've had the Pesach, we don't move around. Shmuel says Kagain, it means dessert. Kagain erdulai li v'gazlai la'aba. It means mushrooms for me and pigeons for Abba, who was Rav, meaning Shmuel's name was Shmuel, and Rav's name was really Rebbe Abba. He was known as Abba. He was known as Rav for the same reason that Rebbe was called Rebbe, as an honorific, because he was a Gadol Hadar. And they were simply stating what they like to eat for dessert. Shmuel says, "I like mushrooms," and Rav liked little pigeons. Those were the guys like Rav Chanin bar Shela Rabbi Yochanan Amar Kagain tomorrow Klayos ve'Gazim. Rav Chanin bar Shela and Rabbi Yochanan give the example of tamarim, dates, and toasted grains and nuts. Those Klayos ve'Gazim, toasted grains and nuts. Those are all called afikomen. They are dessert. Most of the Rishonim, I think, hold that this is just examples. The Ran, however, writes that maybe there is a fundamental machlokes here, that according to Rav Chanina bar Shela and Rabbi Yochanan, dates and nuts and toasted grains would not destroy the flavor of the Korban Pesach that you have in your mouth. So that would not be a problem. But maybe mushrooms and pigeons would mess up the taste of the afikomen in your mouth. And they are saying, yeah, you can't have any fleishiks or anything serious. I don't know, portobello mushrooms, beyond beef or whatever it is. But you can have something light and sweet at the end of the meal that wouldn't take away the taste of the matzah, the taste of the Korban Pesach, which is the real afikomen once upon a time. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan, there is a brisa that supports Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. Don't eat anything after the Pesach. Like dates, toasted grains, and nuts. Those are all the things that Rabbi Yochanan mentioned. Good. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Shmuel, Ein maftirin achar matzah afikomen. We don't finish with anything after we eat the matzah afikomen. So what exactly does that mean? We don't have anything after the matzah. Says the Gemara as follows: Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Ein maftirin achar pesach afikomen. We don't have anything after the Pesach. Achar pesach hu deloi aval achar matzah maftirin. But it seems that you can have something after the matzah. What do you mean you can't have anything after the matzah? After the Pesach. So says the Gemara, Loimi baya kamar. It's saying you're not only. Loimi baya achar matzah. Deloi nafish tamayim. After matzah, which doesn't have a strong flavor, you're not allowed to have anything afterwards. Aval achar Pesach, the nafish tamayim, but after eating the Korban Pesach that has a lot of flavor, loi matzi, avura, and you can't wipe it out with something else. Leislan ba, we wouldn't be concerned about that. Kamash malan, we learn from this that the Mishnah is teaching us that even after the Pesach, you are not able to have anything else, even though there's a strong flavor of fleishiks in your mouth. If you have anything else, that would be problematic. It is here that Rashi discusses for the first time exactly which matzah is the primary matzah. This is a machlokes between Rashi and Rashbam here. Which matzah is the primary matzah of Leil HaSeder? Is it the first matzah that you make hamotzion in order to be kaveh Suda, or is it the matzah that you have at the end of the Suda, which was where you would eat matzah in the days of Chazal? Meaning in the days of the Mishnayos, in the days of the Beis Hamikdash, they would eat the matzah with the Korban Pesach. And this is part of the machlokas that we've seen throughout the Masechta, whether matzah is separate from Pesach as an independent chiyuv, or it is all together. Is matzah bizman hazeh da'oraisa? The Rabbanan, these are all part of that conversation, but it shows up here in this Rashi, where Rashi tells us, "Shetzarich le'achal matzah bigmar hasuda zeichel matzah ne'achelas im ha'Pesach v'zu hi matzah b'tzua." We need to eat matzah at the end of the Suda because that's what we would do in the days of Beis Hamikdash. And the matzah that we have at the beginning of the meal, and then it says, "V'zuhi matzah shanu eichlim ba'achroin l'shem chayvas matzah." That's the matzah that we eat in order to fulfill the mitzvah of matzah. So how come we make ala chilas matzah at the beginning of the meal? It says because you can't eat it without making the bracha ala chilas matzah, because you are eating the matzah. This is the conversation that we had about the maror. Should you make the ala chilas maror if all that you have is maror for your karpas? Nevertheless, this machlokes is why we are machmer, says the Mishnah Berurah, to have two gezesim of matzah at the beginning of the meal and two gezesim of matzah at the end of the meal, according to both of these opinions in the Rishonim. We will continue with the name of Messiah with the next piece of the Gemara on Shabbos and on Matzah Shabbos. Looking forward, please God, to a beautiful Shabbos with everybody as we almost conclude Maseches Pesachim. Looking forward to seeing everybody there, and we will see you over Shabbos.